two writers, one just starting out, the other a bestseller. Join James Blatch and Mark Dawson and their amazing guests as they discuss how you can make a living telling stories. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Hello and welcome to the Self-Publishing Formula podcast with James and Mark on this Friday from the United Kingdom, speaking to the world, like the Eurovision Song Contest, if you're familiar with that. It's been a busy week for the SPF community. We've got a buzz going on in the groups because we have our periodic, one of those moments where we open the course for enrolment. And this is the 101 course. So it's lots of people who are chomping at the bit to get going in the indie world. And let's just say again, there's never been a better time to be a writer.
Yeah, so we could have that at the end of the podcast, James. That sounds everything up nicely. Yeah, it's been really good. We've had quite a few people join up, so the group is buzzing right now. And one of my favourite posts is to ask people to take pictures of their workspaces. And so we're seeing people, Australia, all across the States, in the UK, and in other places, sending pictures of usually quite attractive desks, in a couple of cases not so attractive. Kevin Partner, who's one of our alumni, won't post a picture of his desk because he says it's too untidy, so fair enough. But no one yet has beaten the
747 or 737
737 picture from the cockpit of a 737. I think that's never going to get beaten, basically, unless someone goes up on Branson's Virgin Galactic. That might trump it, but until that point, I think he's safe. That's a fighter pilot. That would be a good one.
That would be a good one. Would
you get excited?
Yeah, I would. I have done that, but I didn't take a book up. Have you? Would you go to space on the Virgin Galactic thing?
Maybe not the first one.
No.
I'll leave that to Richard. I'll go up in 5 or 6 years' time.
Yeah, I would definitely be up for that. Although I think it's a sort of trajectory, just dips into orbit briefly, but I prefer to go to the moon if NASA are listening. Good. Okay, go on. So what?
Too old.
Too old. Yes, I am too old. Rude. Okay, we've got a lot to get through in this podcast, and we've got a really great interview with a very laid-back, sardonic Tennessean. So is that what you say? People from Tennessee. But one of the things I want to do before we get going, Mark, is a very happy time to welcome our new Patreon subscribers. So I'm going to rattle through this list and hopefully you will hear your name in the next few minutes. So we are going to say a very great welcome to John Weston from Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Welcome, John. To Danielle Davis, who is from Beaumont, California, from Miriam Verbeek, who is from New South Wales in Australia, Teresa Connor, I'm going to say, is Connor, from Oxford, Alabama, not Oxford, UK, but Oxford, Alabama. Is there a college in Oxford, Alabama that I could go to and get a sort of correspondence degree and then say, well, I got my degree from Oxford, so I'm sure somebody else has done that.
Ulster.
Yes, that's fine. Natalie M.L. Raymond. Now, I wonder if that is actually her author name, potentially. Natalie is from... I'm not sure where Natalie's from. It says Orbro-Ian. Does that mean anything to you? Gusselby, Orbro-Ian. I think it's possible that Natalie fell over her keyboard. And
you were just making some strange
random letters came out. Jennifer Greenall is from San Diego, California. And we have Karen Inglis, our friend Karen, who's from the United Kingdom, from London, the United Kingdom. Hopefully we'll see Karen next month at London Book Fair. Gretchen Shirley Belend, careful how I say that, from Kent, Wisconsin, Kent, WA. Is that Washington? That must be Washington, I think. Gia Coom Ramirez from NSMT. You're testing my codes for the States now. MT, Massachusetts?
Massachusetts.
Yeah, Massachusetts, okay. From Tom Baggerman from Bridgeville, Pennsylvania. I know PA. Paul Fitzsimmons from Dublin in Ireland. Elizabeth Hager is from nowhere, and she's from somewhere, but it's just not down here. Joseph Little, welcome Joseph to our Patreon list from San Antonio, Texas. Valerie Francis, who is in St. John's, NL, which I guess is Newfoundland. That must be St. John's, Newfoundland, I think, or is it?
Oh, Netherlands, but yeah.
Or Netherlands, potentially. It says Brooklyn Avenue. Sounds like it might be Newfoundland.
Yes.
What a wonderful place to come from. Paris Singer Sounds like a good name. Is from Alicante. It was a nice holiday destination here in Europe, in Spain. Julia V from Sunnyvale, California. Stephen Moore, our friend Stephen Moore, who hasn't got a location here, but I'm pretty certain is in Mexico, although he does do a lot of traveling. Rana K. Williamson is from Fort Worth, Texas. Kanisha Williams is from Clarksburg, MD. All the Americans are shouting at us because they all know these off by heart, of course. Maryland. Did you Google that? Have you made that up?
I'm just very clever.
Lee Jackson. Lee is from Austin, Texas. Great city. Melissa M. Green from Monument, Colorado. And finally, Gillian Trewick. Trewick. Am I saying that right? Trewick? Gillian. I think Gillian has just joined our 101 course. I had a little conversation with her yesterday about that. So welcome, Gillian, both to the 101 course and to our Patreon subscribers. If you want to get a shout out for yourself with your location stumbled through by me, you can join us at patreon.com/SPF podcast. And within that list were the very last of the mugs, I have to say. The last of the mugs. It sounds like a novel title. We are now moving over to pins. Now, the pins are smaller than the mugs, it has to be said, but they are rare and collectible. And so only special people will get SPF pins. And so they're going to be winging their way to our gold level subscribers on Patreon. Good. Well, we've done that. Mark, amongst everything else that's been going on this week, you flew off to Luxembourg yesterday. I assume just to check on your bank accounts and...
Well, actually, it was. I posted a picture in the airport to my Facebook page, and everyone suggested, given that a spy had been poisoned in Salisbury on Sunday, that I was leaving the country for safer climes. So yeah, it's been all a bit weird. So where I am right now is literally five minutes from where he and his daughter were found. So this is all very strange, especially for somebody who writes espionage thrillers like me. So there's that. But anyway, yeah, I jumped on a plane the day before yesterday, flew to Luxembourg, and was put up in a rather weird hotel, which is kind of like a high-end hostel, all a bit odd. By Amazon, and then me and three other authors, one from Germany, one from Spain, and one from Italy, spoke to 150 Amazonians, some of whom, basically the whole Kindle team from Europe has this kind of Luxembourg conference, 2-day conference every year, and then they have a big party, and they were joined by some very senior Amazonians of maybe one or two rungs down from Jeff, who run the Kindle program, both devices and the KDP store and all that kind of stuff. So we had a round table and we spoke about that, and it was great. It was really lovely to be able to, again, to meet up with some old friends from Amazon, but also to meet some new friends and to tell the people working on the Kindle program and to demonstrate that their work has real world consequences. So some of, I suppose you would probably class me as an outlier now, and some of the others I was talking with were outliers, but as we know in the community, we have dozens, hundreds probably of people who are earning $300, $400, $1,000, $10,000 every month, and that's money they wouldn't have otherwise, and that's something that they've been able to generate through writing, and to be able to just kind of, I suppose in some ways, just say thank you to the Amazon staff who do all this, make all this possible. It was a real privilege to be able to do that, and then flew back home last night, and got back in the office today after a couple of days out, and it's bedlam. So all kinds of stuff going on, but it's busy times. That's how it is.
Yeah, yes. The spy story was absolutely extraordinary, and we had a guy, Alexander Litvinenko, who was poisoned in London a few years ago now, probably
8 years ago.
8 years ago, was it? Yeah.
10
years ago. So okay, so he had polonium 232, was it, or something like that? One of the isotopes of polonium dropped into his drink, and he died. And once you get this stuff, it's apparently very difficult to recover from it. And then we had this absolute story. I mean, what is extraordinary also is that probably a lot of people haven't heard of Salisbury. I mean, Salisbury is a smallish market town in Wiltshire, and the most unlikely place in the world to have a Russian double agent. This guy spied for Russia and then spied for Britain against Russia. So he's obviously, I mean, I don't know what the life expectancy of people who do that is, but he put himself into a bracket where this sort of thing is a potential thing, but just unusually in Salisbury. And I was speaking to our accountant this week in the exciting world of doing our sales tax returns. And he has friends who walked past as it all happened.
I was in Salisbury then. I was working that Sunday afternoon, so I would have been. I know the pub. I've drank in the pub before. I know the restaurant. I walk past it most days. So it is really weird. And you see that. I mean, we shouldn't talk about this for too long, of course. But there was a policeman. He was also, I think, he's recovering now, but was critically ill through contamination. They think now from this guy's house and not actually from on the street. Which is why there's lots of cordons everywhere around Salisbury now. And I walked past them this morning. A lot of police, military now is getting stuff out. It's pretty nuts.
Well, the reason we're talking about this because you're an espionage writer, you're a thriller writer. A lot of the audience write thrillers, and you must draw some of your. I know you draw some of your inspiration from real life because I read one of your books, and the opening chapter was a case I remember very well of a guy being gunned down in the Alps. Right.
Yep. So I actually put a question in my Facebook group last night. I think there's 3 things I'm thinking about writing next. One is 2 are Milton books, and one is a new project I've been working on. I just asked them what they would like, and the overwhelming winner was Milton goes to Russia after investigating something in a town like Salisbury. Right. So I made it because one of the benefits of writing the way that we do is we don't have to submit it to a publisher and then wait for a publishing slot 2 years probably hence. I can write this in 6 weeks, publish it whilst the case is still fresh. So that might be what I do next. But interesting times.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, look, let's get on to our interview. So we are going to hear from Ernie Dempsey, and this is a companion interview to last week. So last week we spoke to Maria Lewis in NOLA in New Orleans, and Maria told the story of her getting going writing, which was about a year ago now, and she planned her launch. She planned her first 3 books. It was very interesting, and that was the best feedback we got about that interview was listening. People found it very valuable listening to the way that she'd planned it. You helped her a lot, Mark, with your materials, which was great. And this is another one. So Ernie was a couple of years before Maria. And he was somebody else. He's a really sweet guy, really lovely guy. I don't know if he'd like being called sweet. And we got on very well with him in the States when we were there. So I sat down and did this interview with him. And he told the story, which is for me an everyman story. This is a guy who worked in a high school, who'd been writing stories since he was at high school. Wanted to be an author, but just knew that it wasn't for him. Got all the rejection letters. And then suddenly things start changing. This whole indie world, what you're just referring to, that Amazon have enabled and that you are a great propagator of. And he has learned from you, as he'll make clear in the interview. But Ernie is now, he posted, in fact, funnily enough, I would say this, Maria was last week, Ernie is this week, both of them unprompted, not knowing that we had scheduled their podcast interviews. And this interview was done in October. Both of them were done in September, October last year. Both of them spontaneously wrote us an email, didn't they, last couple of weeks, just to say, I just want to say to you again, thank you for everything you've done for me. And Ernie posted a lovely picture of his house with his father, I think sitting in a rocking chair with a shotgun on his lap.
Yeah, that was really lovely. I mean, Maria told us how much she made last year, which was a lot. I won't mention how much, but it was lovely to see that. And Ernie has just bought a house, which has a lovely view, and he sent a lovely picture of his dad looking out over this golf course. And I think Ernie's dad was telling him, Ernie says, how proud he was of him. And Ernie's got 1 or 2 kids, I think, and has a bigger house now, and he's bought that through book sales. And that's what I'm talking about when I say about how we should. Amazon get a lot of stick sometimes. It's not just Amazon. Ernie may well have sold a ton on Apple, but these kinds of platforms and the people who work on them are enabling us to do amazing things that wouldn't have been possible 10 years ago. Maria would still have been a tour guide potentially in New Orleans, and then might still be a teacher. And as it is, they're both full-time writers doing what they love. So that's sort of, if I had a glass, I'd raise it.
Yeah. Well, I do have a glass. It's got squash in it, but I've
got a mug.
Yeah, there you go. And you are a mug. Okay, let's hear from Ernie. Ernie Dempsey.
Yeah.
Welcome to the SPF podcast.
I just practiced this interview in my car like 2 days ago.
Well, so this is going to be a perfect interview then.
I had no idea this was happening.
How long was your car journey?
90 minutes.
Okay. We'll see what we can do. We'll get 30 minutes out of you. Look, Ernie, you are somebody who's been you are an early member, almost a founder member of the SPF community.
Yeah.
Really back in the day.
I couldn't get in fast enough.
And we're going to hear your story, but the long story short is you're a school teacher. you embrace self-publishing, and now you go to Super Bowl games.
That's right. Yes.
We don't need to do the interview, do we? Because
that was great. That was great. That was awesome.
Let's tell us a bit about who Ernest Dempsey is, the author name. Tell us a little bit about you and your books.
Yes. So my real name is Ernest Dempsey. Ernie's a nickname, a common nickname. Everybody calls me Ernie or Ern. But yeah, I write action adventure thrillers, and I guess that's what I would call them. A lot of history involved with them, like National Treasure, Indiana Jones, that sort of stuff. And so I have, former government agent turned archaeologist, getting into all sorts of trouble and that sort of thing. So
excellent. Yeah. So the books sound great. They look great as well. You've got good covers. We'll come on to all of that.
My cover designer is awesome.
Yeah. So let's go back a couple of years then. And people always, I do, and I know other people, listeners, want to hear your story or transition from everybody, every kind of 9-to-5 Joe out there, or Joanna, through to living the dream of writing at home and making money doing it. So let's
telling stories.
Is that your English accent? You're pretty good at English accents.
I talk in it all the time when I'm alone.
I
don't do it in public, but when I'm driving in my car, I'm like, no.
Ernie is English when he's alone. Okay,
that's right.
So you are based in the US. You say you live in Atlanta, or you're Chattanooga.
Chattanooga, Tennessee, and then part time in Atlanta, which is just 90 minutes away. So
yeah, okay. And a Braves fan.
Big Braves fan. Yeah, big Falcons fan. Atlanta sports. So
and a school teacher a couple of years ago.
Yep, I was a high school guidance counselor and soccer coach I did that for 12 years, and yeah. So.
But there was a part of you that was a writer.
Yeah, it was funny because people ask me, when did you start writing? And I tell them my freshman year in high school, and that's true. I started writing stories, and I got in trouble. I just told this story to a friend the other day. I got in trouble my freshman year at Collegedale Academy, which is a pretty conservative institution. We got this writing assignment, and I wrote this very graphic action sequence, and there was a lot of blood and shooting and stuff, and it was the first, I'll never forget it. It was the English teacher's first year as an English teacher, and so she's young, and she reads this story I wrote and is appalled. I mean, she was so appalled, she called a parent-teacher conference.
Well, probably alarm bells are going off.
Oh, big time! This kid's gonna go nuts, and no, but it was the kind of movies I like to watch. It was the kind of stories I like to read, and so so that was kind of a funny little foray, I guess, into the writing world. But no, I had great encouragement from my English teachers, and it's so funny because I never finished a story. Like the short stories we were assigned, I did, but I would start stuff. I always had ideas. I got, good feedback from the teachers, but I never had any follow-up. And then I was attending a funeral of one of my professors, and when I was in college, and I bumped into, it was an English professor, and all the other professors and old teachers I had in the English departments that I'd ever had all found me and were asked what I was up to. And I said, well, I'm doing this. And they're like, are you still writing? Every single one of them asked me if I was still writing. And I said, no, not really. And they're like, they all said the same thing. You need to be writing because you have a knack for it. You have a gift for it.
They spotted that. They knew that.
Yeah. And I never really thought I was that good. Because I don't have a huge vocabulary. My vocabulary, I don't, use a whole lot of fancy words, and I don't get in deep into descriptions of things. So I didn't think that I was really that good. And so, but when they told me that kind of lit the spark again. And so I started. I had an idea for the first novel, The Secret of the Stones. There's a place about 45 minutes from where I live in North Georgia where there's this mysterious wall. And it's made out of these rocks, but it's not a circular wall, and it's this. They calculate it to be between 700 and 1100 years old, but nobody knows who put it there or why it's there. And I went there for a picnic, and I said, "This is going to be the basis of my story." Now, for the people in the know, you don't want to do a plot-driven novel, you want to do character-driven novels. True enough, but I started with a plot-driven novel, and it took a couple years to write it. So if it's taking you a while, that's okay.
Thank you.
But it's once you get the first one out, the rest are much faster, and that's how I ended up writing the first one. So I don't know if I answered your question. I feel like I veered off into
no, you did. So you've got
orbit.
No, that's good. You got a novel in you. You decide that you get some encouragement. It's a shame in a way that you didn't leave high school knowing that you were a good writer. That was in that it was a sort of chance meeting.
Well,
afterwards.
I'm self-deprecating. I beat myself. I have low self-esteem, and I don't think I'm any good at anything. So my lot in life, I felt like, was to just try to fit in and get a job. But I was bored in school. Like, I did enough to graduate and get degrees in college and stuff, but it was never I never felt like it was my real calling. And I felt like a round peg in a square hole for 12 years in the public school system. Like, the whole time I felt like this is not what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And now I don't wake up a single day feeling that way.
Yeah,
so
well, we're going to get to that point in a moment. So, so you've written this book, and so you're working at high school at this stage when you write the book.
Yeah, So this is funny. I would wake up at like 5:30 because my commute from Chattanooga down to that little town was about 35 minutes. So I would wake up at like 5:30 in the morning and write, and then which you've interviewed lots of people that did that or rode on subways or trains or whatever. So that's what I did, and then I would write on my lunch break, and then first thing I got home, when I got home from work, I would do a little more writing, and then spend time with my girlfriend or whatever, and then
that's dedication, though. I mean,
well, yeah, I talked to this. So I met working in the school had a couple of cool perks. The librarians loved me, and I love them, and I still do. I used to go in there and chat with them all the time. I like being surrounded by all the books too, so I like that. And currently, I go to my local bookstore and work, right. And so, they brought in some authors though, some kids authors. One wrote children's books, another wrote books for like middle, early high school age. His name was William Slater, and we were chatting, and I said, I was trying to get some advice from him, like, what should I do? And he said, well, when do you write? And I said, I told him what I just told you about the 5:30 wake up time and all that. And he goes, I couldn't imagine how hard it would be to do that, working a full-time job. And you must write a lot on the weekends. I said, no, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, so I don't work on Saturdays. So it's like the Jewish Sabbath. I don't work on Saturdays. And in the fall, I'm watching football on Sundays. So I don't have time to write on the weekends. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And but it's like, yeah, that's what I do. I just write really fast, and I go as hard as I can, and when I have the time. And people would come up to me all the time and say, man, I really want to write a book, but I don't have time. I'm like, then make time. Yeah. If it's a priority, then make time for it.
Yeah, there's time. So you wrote this book, and then at this stage, what did you know about the editing process and covers and stuff?
Oh, it was terrible. Like, I knew nothing. I didn't have you guys and Mark and all at that point. So I did the same thing everybody else did. I pitched query letters to agents. I know a lot of people have like 7,000 rejection letters. I stopped with 17 rejection letters, and I used there was a website that I used to contact agents. I don't remember what it was, but it was I got a lot of rejection letters. They weren't interested. There was no interest in the story whatsoever. The manuscript was pretty lame, I guess, and I was chatting with a friend, and they said, "Well, have you heard of this?" And I'm not going to mention the company's names because I don't want authors to use them. They're not scammy. They do what they tell you they're going to do, but there's better ways to do it. And Mark shows better ways. Nick shows better ways than Joanna. And so I went through this company. It was essentially a vanity press. They did the cover for me. They did a very rough edit for me. And I didn't have much money, so I got an English professor I was friends with and an English teacher that I worked with to edit the book. If I could give advice to any writer, the two things of advice that I would give are: don't design your own covers, and don't get English teachers or professors to edit your books. And I'm sorry if there's an English teacher listening to this right now and it's like, well, hold on just a dadgum minute. They probably didn't say it in a southern accent like that, or say dadgum, but it's a different ball game than what they do.
Yeah.
Their grading papers, I'm not knocking it, they do a great job with it, but it's a completely different process. And it killed me in the reviews for a long time. Like, I got the number one review on my first book that I ever wrote, it's on Amazon, is great story needs an editor, or good book needs an editor, something like that.
Yeah.
And they missed typos, they missed grammatical things. I'm not the best with grammar. And so that was a big problem. And the first book didn't sell many copies either. Like, I didn't know how to get it to, into distribution. I didn't know all the, the KDP stuff. I didn't know any of that stuff. And so, it was tough. But, I had that one English teacher I worked with. She said to me, I'll never forget it. She said, Ernie, when she came into my office just to ask me this, she said, when are you going to write the sequel to your first book? And I said, what are you talking about, Carol? I'm not going to write a sequel. And she goes, yes, you are. That you left it on a cliffhanger. This book is a sequel, at least maybe 3 books. And I said, well, I was planning it as a trilogy, but I didn't sell many copies, and I'm in the hole a couple grand on it, and I don't think I'm going to write the next book. And she grabbed me by the shirt.
Just careful on the microphone.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. Forgot about the microphone.
That's quite a good effect of you being grabbed.
Yeah. Okay, good. So that's a good effect. She grabbed me by the shirt and she said, write the next book. I've read the first one 3 times. And I said, really? With all the bad edits and all that? She's like, I don't care. The story is great. And I said, okay, fine. I said, if there's one person like that, then there's 3. And if there's 3, maybe there's a whole world of people that would like what I'm writing. So I wrote the second one in 6 months, and I scrapped the whole cover that company did. I actually I designed my own covers the second time around, which I don't recommend doing, but I figured out how to do it using like GIMP, the GIMP software, and I learned enough to like at least make them better than they were.
You started off a little bit. I remember we were talking earlier, and you were a little bit apologetic. I don't mean to be down on teaching and stuff, but you were pleased to be out of it. Except, you know what? Teachers are coming across really well in this interview so far. You had those guys at the funeral who came up to you and gave you that encouragement, and then you had your colleague who said to you, "Write that book." So if it wasn't for those teachers,
right? Yes, exactly, and so that's exactly right. Without great encouragement from teachers that were both my teachers or coworkers, I wouldn't be sitting here doing this interview right now, overlooking the beach.
We should say we're in Florida, and if you're watching on YouTube, it goes very bright every now and again, and then very dark. That's because we can't adjust the cameras when we're running, and the Florida weather is going from hot and sunny to hot and cloudy.
It's that time of year where it starts getting very erratic down here,
but always hot. It's always like 88, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which, for us English people, is a bit like
it's
living
sweltering.
in an oven.
But thank you for using Fahrenheit and not
yes, well, I like to muck in if I can.
Thank you.
And also, I hope you appreciate the fact I pulled the fuse out of the air conditioning unit.
Yes.
We're not used to cold air.
Yeah.
I did literally do that. Okay, look, this is the exciting bit then. So there you are. Your book is languishing a bit. You've got this encouragement because somebody's told you it's a good story and you're a good writer, and you start writing your second book. Then at some point, things start to click in terms of being able to sell. So what was that transition?
Yeah, so 2011 was when I wrote the second one, and I did the cover redesigns for the first one. I sent it to another editor and had it re-edited, still not perfectly, but much better. And in December of 2011, I re-released the first one. I released the second one. And what happened was, after that woman talked to me about that, I said, okay, I'll do a second one, but I'm going to do it not my way, but I'm going to find a better way to do it. So I started researching how, like Google searches on like how to publish on Kindle, how to publish Barnes and Noble, how to do all this stuff, right? And then I find out like you can do this all yourself. Like you don't need a vanity press to do these things for you. You can do it all yourself. So that's what I did. I re-released the first one in December 2011 and at the same time released the sequel. And I was selling like 5 books a day, 10 books a day, 7 books a day. And at that point I was narrow. It was all exclusive on Amazon. And in 2011, people who are in the industry know back then that, you know, the perks of being exclusive with Amazon were really good. I mean, you got the free days, you got those other little promotional things you could do. And so, but after like, I don't know, 20 days, I was like, man, this is not friends and family buying these books. These are just strangers in Timbuktu somewhere, like reading them on a bus in Chicago or something, like people I've never met. And I was thinking, I could scale this up. Like I could do more of this. I could write more books and sell more books and really supplement my income, but also do something, you know, that I really want. I feel like I have stories that people will enjoy and that will help them escape from, you know, from the rigors of life. And so I wrote the next one in like 2 months, and I've just been going fast ever since then. And it hasn't always been easy and good. I started listening to another podcast that was really helpful about 6 months later in 2012. And those guys, it was really funny. They were talking about the same pitfalls that I went through or the same issues. And I was like, oh, so that's why that happened with my books during that month. And I started learning a lot, but it was good. I was making, you know, gas money for my commute to work and whatever. And then I found Mark Dawson and everything. I found him and Nick at the same time. I bought both of their courses simultaneously. And that's when everything just completely changed. So
that unlocked things for you. So in what way can you be specific about the changes that...
No, I'm just going to leave it at vague.
Yeah.
No, I'm just on a beach in Florida. No,
You've such a British sense of humor. You're from Atlanta.
Yeah, so it was restate your question just so I can make sure I get it right.
Well, okay, just tell us about. So you basically said you found Mark,
yeah,
and you found Nick's community, and then things went stratospheric for you. I think. Yeah,
they didn't go stratospheric yet. So like I started Googling things, like doing searches on like how to market your books, how to you know, sell more books, that typical stuff, right? And I found blog tours. There was a blog tour company. I did one of those, total waste of money. I at one point, I literally went to a coffee shop in Chattanooga, my hometown, my favorite coffee shop, and I went to them and I said, "Hey, here's the deal. I'm gonna give away all these books to all the. You know, I'm gonna give away digital copies to all these people, and just go on and leave a review." I was trying to figure out like how to sell more books, and I somehow stumbled across the K-boards, and Mark Dawson was talking about what he'd been doing. And I can't remember how I found Nick Stevenson, but it was a similar way. And when I found them, they talked about how they were going to buy a course. Mark gave a place where you could sign up to find out more. Somewhere along those lines, you guys were behind the scenes making the thing. And I kept checking. I checked daily. Like I'm not kidding. I was checking my email daily. Like, when is this friggin' Brit gonna like start this course? I'm sorry, that was offensive. When is he gonna open this course? I couldn't get in it fast enough. So when I said that earlier, I wasn't kidding. I'm like, let's go, chop, chop, make the course, guys. Finally, he opened it up. I blew through everything. I'm like, video side picture here. I'm like doing what he's talking about. And the results were pretty much instant. Like, I started getting subscribers. I started getting more sales. The sales didn't spike tremendously. I don't remember how many in my main series at that point, but they went up, and they were going up. And every time I released a new book, they went up. And every time I was, ran new ads, I got more sales than I did before. And so that was huge. Those two courses, those two guys, they saved me from a life of drudgery.
Well, when did that happen? When did the income? Can you give us some? I don't want to price.
No, you're good. No,
in terms of income, when did things start to become more serious?
Well, I started touching four figures a few times in
a month.
Yeah, I wish I could remember my first $1,000 month, but I really can't. And partly because that wasn't my goal. Like, my goal was never just I wanted to replace my income. And so I really don't remember when that was. I would say probably 30 days after I did Mark's course.
Right.
Maybe, I'm not kidding. I think it was probably the next month I did four figures. And then in April of 2015, I made more money gross from my sales than I did from the school. And so this is a funny little story, but they called me into the office, the principal and the assistant principal, and they said they started asking me lots of questions. Like, there was an anomaly that happened during a testing session where I was testing a kid who'd missed a standardized test like a week before, so I'm testing him alone. Well, something strange happened. He only completed half the test on the computer and submitted it. They asked me why, and I said, he told me he finished it. Well, didn't you check? This is a new test. I didn't know how to check this. I went through the training. They didn't talk about this. So then they asked me other questions. Well, we hear you're writing your books on school time. And I'm like, no, if I was writing my books on school time, I wouldn't need to wake up at 5:30 in the morning. And then they asked me a couple other questions, and they were really prying. And I said to myself, I see what this is. I have tenure. You can't fire an educator with tenure without a significant case against them. They were putting a case together for the following year. So if I screwed up at all, they were going to just be able to say, here's the deal. We're getting rid of you. So I said, guys, I see what's going on here. And I said, I'm going to make it real easy for you. And they're both my friends, and I respect them a lot. They were my bosses, but I love them. They're great people, but they were doing what they were told. I said, I'm going to make this easy for you. I'll let you know by Thursday or by Friday if I'll be back next year. And they looked at me and said, what are you talking about? I said, well, you just sat here and told me that I'm going to have to do more work next year for the same amount of pay. I'm going to document all these things I'm doing. You're asking me all these questions. To me, it sounds like a witch hunt. And I made more money with my books last month than I did here. And I'm happier sharing stories with the world than I am sitting in pointless meetings at central office. So I'll let you know by Friday. And that was a Wednesday. I walked back in the next day and told him I was quitting. And I emailed the human resources guy. I said, I know that I signed my contract for next year, but I'm pretty sure you're not going to put up a fight on this one, because he wanted me out too, I think. And he said, okay. I was like, perfect. So I quit.
And did you quit with a really strong sense of confidence that you could replicate these monthly figures and grow them?
I did. I sat down with my wife, and this is what was scary. We just had a baby 2 weeks before this happened. We had a little newborn, right? And so that made it scary. And there's no guarantees, but there's no guarantees in anything. They can, if you have if you have the safest job in the world, you can get fired. You can be the best at your job in the world, and all of a sudden you lose everything. So I talked it over with the wife, and she was extremely supportive, very supportive. And so I quit. And it wasn't all roses and perfect, because that year in 2015, I made a major misstep. I decided to do a spin-off trilogy for my main series. I got a lot of good feedback on one of my side characters, my main characters. And instead of producing this side trilogy and releasing a book every 60 to 90 days or whatever, I built it all up at once and didn't release anything for 6 months. And my income it just plummeted. And the ads helped sustain a little bit, but I maxed out all my credit cards. I had like 15 grand in a retirement account that I'd saved up, gone, like in a 6-month period of time. It was about 10 months.
And a baby.
I blew through all of it. We ended up selling our house in 2016, not because of that, but from other stuff. And I was dangerously close to having to take a job in 2016, and it was my own fault because I wasn't working as hard. And that's, if there's any take, I said 2 pieces of advice, 3 pieces of advice. Work your butt off. Like, this is not something where you write one book and you sell 1 million copies. Everybody's read the Hugh Howey story. Everybody's read about Amanda Hawking and, E.L. James and all these people that they wrote their 7th book and they made $10 million. Or they wrote book 1 and they made It's not about that. Nobody looks at their job that way. Nobody goes to work at the post office and says, today's the day that I put in my 8 hours and I'm going to make $1 million from it. So writers shouldn't look at it that way either. And unfortunately, I kind of was, because I was listening to all these success stories and reading them, and I'm like, okay, my day's coming. The truth of it is that the more you write and the more you work on your marketing and you balance those 2 things, the harder you work at both of those things, the more successful you're going to be. And that's what happened with me. And when that clicked, then it blew up. And I hit my first tipping point in October of 2016. So
you recovered from this period?
Oh yeah.
Big time. Focus back on your main series?
Yeah, I'm focused on the main series, mostly the Sean Wyatt series is what people know it as, that action adventure thing. I do have a spin-off short novel that's coming out here in a couple of months that is that side character I mentioned, but my readers have been asking for it, so I'm doing that. I think that one's going to be one that like Mark donated money with his Phoenix book. I'm going to use this one, I think, for disaster relief. So, and I'm going to give it to all my subscribers for free initially, and then tell them, hey, if you want to support the relief fund stuff, then you can go buy it.
What's this for, hurricane?
Yeah, the hurricanes, the just all the stuff that's happened. There's been a bunch of crazy things, and so I'm doing it for that. But yeah, as far as the financial recovery, it's been crazy. I've had, since October 2016, I've had 5-figure months every month. I've hit 20,000 a couple times, and that's gross. Obviously, that's not net, but sure. It's I never dreamed that I would be doing something like that and doing something I love and getting people emailing me. I've built up a list of so many awesome people. Like, that's the best part of, I'm not famous, but like I'm famous to those readers, and the best part of fame is the friendships that I've made. Like, I'm pretty sure I have a free place to stay anywhere in the world. And that's awesome. And these people, these readers are so cool. They're so nice, and their age ranges are from 30s to 80 years old and retired, and they're so kind and they're so awesome. I don't know. I'm just so blessed. I'm just blessed. That's all there is to say about that.
Well, you've worked hard, and that's one of the great things about this. And yeah, your Falcons, your beloved Falcons, got to the Super Bowl, and I was joking at the beginning. Well, not really joking, but now you go to the Super Bowl. I know it's painful memory, but
no, it's okay. It was. Look, we dominated the best team on the planet for 3 quarters, and we had the greatest tailgate of all time. And I met a lot of cool new people there, and we had a blast. So it was a good experience. I'd do it again.
You are yet to go to a Cambridge United match, so you haven't quite reached the pinnacle of sporting.
That will be the pinnacle. Do you guys have a good tailgate? Do you get like the grills out and do some barbecue before the games?
We have pasties and pies, and there's a reasonable chance if you eat one you'll end up in hospital. But
that doesn't sound good.
No.
It seems like maybe I should bring you guys like some charcoal and a barbecue and.
Yeah. If you do that, you'll be arrested in the UK. If you
really, you can't have like a charcoal fire going? Like,
no, not near a car in a car park.
But it rains. Crazy. It's perpetually raining. There's no fire hazard. What's the problem?
Anyway, you do have a place to stay in the UK, but it does come with a trip to Cambridge United.
No, it's fantastic. I want to do it.
Yeah, you'll be there. So, well, congratulations is what I want to say to you, Ernie. You've built this house yourself. I know you say you're blessed, and you've built this house. You've got up early. I assume, by the way, you're not getting up at 5:30 now because this is your job, right?
Well, I was for about 2 years because my daughter was waking us up at like 5:30 in the morning, but she's sleeping until 7 now, so I'm sleeping until 7. And there's a part of me that's like, you should get up at 6 and do a little writing. I'm like, no, you do this full time now. You can. My mom comes up. My wife goes to work. She still works, and she works very hard in the medical field. And then my mom comes over and babysits for about 6 hours every day. And I couldn't do it without the team. Like, that's my team. You know, you guys have a team. My team is my mom, my wife, my sister, who, you know, is always encouraging and always tries to bend her schedule because my mom helps with their kid too. And like, I have all these people, this great support that, you know, on top of all the readers, all the people behind the scenes, that I couldn't have done it without them.
Yeah, the team's hugely important. And,
I just sit at a laptop and make my fingers move. Like, that's.
Well, there's a trick to that, as we all know. And let's finish off. Let's wrap this up and try and get a little bit of value out of you for now.
So none of this has been valuable.
None of it's been valuable.
I'm out of here. Going to the beach.
Waiting for this bit. Yeah, the beach looks lovely out there, and here we are stuck.
I'm looking at you. You told me not to look away. So.
Yeah, you can turn around and look at the beach.
I can see the reflection in your glasses.
Oh yeah, there you go. What's working for you at the moment? Obviously, Facebook advertising has probably been a major driver for you, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So the whole Pat Flynn thing of being everywhere is the key for me. Okay, so Pat Flynn, great blogger, podcaster. A lot of people know his story about how he lost his job and then became a blogger, and kind of at first accidentally learned about how to make money from his website. He said one of the biggest secrets to success is to be everywhere. And so what I try to do is I try to give content in as many places as I can. So that may be in an ad. An ad is content. I mean, it's got an image, or a video, it's got copy that will lead people to more content, right? So that's a part of it. So Facebook ads is a piece of the pie. I'm not doing anything with YouTube or Twitter ads right now, but I'm using YouTube to do self-interviews with my readers. So you guys have set up cameras here. Mm-hmm. I set up my iPhone and I position myself, you know, and I look at the camera and I talk. And what I do is I'll answer questions that I get from readers. They don't even know I'm going to answer them sometimes. Or I will give them a behind-the-scenes look. So for a book that I released in March this year of 2017, The Denali Deception, I did some on-site videos where some of the action took place in the story and showed them some of these historical places, these landmarks in Chattanooga, that a lot of Civil War stuff happened there. And so the readers loved it. They love even just me sitting in my living room answering questions because they feel like they're getting to know me. And so if you're an author, you need to do that. And it's hard with video because you don't know what content to give them. We'll start with just a little interview, like 2-3 minutes. Answer a question that you get or that you would have for yourself if you were reading your own stuff, and put it out there. And just, I'm not consistent with it. I do it around release time. So it's about every, couple months or so I do videos. But it's content you're putting out there. I do BookBub PPC. I do BookBub featured deals when I can get them. That took a long time before I got my first one. And so if you're applying for them and getting turned down, it's not you, it's them.
Keep going.
Just keep going. And then I've done, what else? Amazon Marketing Services, now AMS. I'm doing a lot more thanks to the interviews that I heard you guys do with, what's his face? Who's the one that did that? I don't remember.
Darren Hardy?
Yeah, I don't know. It was one of those guys. Yeah. And then, so I'm doing that, and then I'm constantly writing. So it's a balance of, you have to have lots of marketing. I call it the spinning the plates of chaos. You have to have all those plates spinning at the same time while you're creating new content. But you need to do it, and it's a lot of work, and people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear it's hard. It's a lot of work. Well, do you want something awesome? Or do you just want mediocre for the rest of your life? So I want awesome. And so I spin a lot of plates. And that's what you have to do. You have to be everywhere, like the Coca-Cola and the the McDonald's thing, they run advertising. They don't need to run advertising, but they do it. That means you should do it. Everybody knows Coke and McDonald's. If you're like me, most people don't know who you are. Like most people don't know Ernest Dempsey. It's just a fact. That's okay. But they will if I keep those plates spinning. So
I think I heard the line for our teaser this week coming in there. Do you want awesome?
Our teaser?
Yeah, we just drag out 30 seconds of the podcast and put it on the Facebook groups. I think I just heard that line go through.
Okay.
So one editorial here. I love that line. I love the point you make about advertising, and you will get cynics. Partly people don't want to hear the "you've got to work hard" bit, and people also, I think, if they don't understand or they underestimate, they're underconfident about using advertising platforms, which I completely understand. Sometimes that comes out of them as a kind of anti the whole thing. But that point you make, everyone's heard of Coca-Cola and McDonald's, and yet they spend millions of dollars on advertising every day of the week. It's not for fun.
No, they want you to be the first. They want their brand to be the first thing you think of when they're hungry or thirsty. So you should want readers to think of you the first time when they were ready for something new to read. And maybe they don't buy on the first time they see your ad. They don't buy the first 7 times, but they might buy the 8th time. They're like, man, I've seen this guy or gal a billion times. They keep coming through my feed. They must be popular. And that's the other thing too. You know, you can the perception. If you're not advertising, then you are no one, because you're not putting the effort out there to get in front of the readers. And so it's vital. It's extremely vital that you be advertising. And look, no business starts and then starts advertising. They begin and then they start advertising and they turn a profit like that. Everybody's like, well, I just lost $100. I'm not going to do this. Doesn't work. You can't look at it that way. You have to consistently test over and over again. You have to tweak your copy, your images, until you find what works. And in the meantime, you're not losing money because your brand was still there. It was put in front of them. Just because they didn't click that time, maybe your copy wasn't right, but they'll remember you the next time when your copy is right.
Yes, so you've always got to think the 7 touches and all the theory that goes into it. It's not as simple as there's my advert, someone's bought my book. Oh, they haven't bought my book. That advert didn't work. Right. It's not like that. The advert worked because it's part of that chain association that eventually becomes a familiarity. Yeah, and then they make a purchase. Look, we're right up against it in terms of time. Ernie, it's been hugely fun meeting you and talking to you. And I should say it is Wednesday the 4th of October and we are about to go and have a few drinks because it's the SPF credit card, which is over there, is going to be pulled out of John Dyer's wallet.
With the moths that fly out of it and everything. Fly out,
a lot of dust everywhere, but the credit card's going to go behind the bar at the Sharktooth Tavern in about, where are we now? In 30 minutes, we need to get over there. And we're going to have a few
Sorry,
drinks.
I talked too much.
No. Well, you've talked yourself out of dinner, I think. So,
that's okay.
We'll find a sandwich somewhere. Right. If you're coming along tonight, we're going to see you later. And we're going to try and get this interview out soon. It's been huge, Ernie, inspirational. Congratulations. We love that you're successful. We'd like to feel a part of that as well. But it's been brilliant.
You're a huge part of it. And I'm tickled that I got to do this. This is awesome.
Tickled is a very English word.
Is it?
He does a pretty good British accent. I think it's a slightly mocking British accent, but
yes,
he was great to hang out with. And we're going to the States I'm not going anywhere near him in July, but we're going in September. And if I can somehow make it to Atlanta to see him, we'd love to do that and have a little glass on his terrace there, because I think that's the story that we all want to hear. We've got our foot on the ladder somewhere. This guy who clearly, and this is a point you made to Maria when you replied to her email, that number one reason for their success is they're good writers. And let's just put that out there. Maria is obviously a talented writer. Ernie is obviously a talented writer. He also works very hard at it and making it happen. But with the know-how which you provide, and with the platform that Apple and Kobo and Amazon provide, there's a real opportunity out there now.
Absolutely, yeah. It's I can show people how to get people to download their books, and I can show them how to put great covers on the books and write great blurbs. And those are all really, really important steps. But if that's been successful, then at that point it is on the writer. So if someone starts reading a book and they don't like the story, it doesn't matter how good the marketing is, they won't buy the next book by the author. So that's not a problem that either of these guys have had, and it's not a problem that tons and tons of our other students have. All we're doing is kind of giving them a gentle push in the right direction, and then once they get going, it's over to them.
Okay, there's a few more days of the course open. Have I got that right? This will be going a week Friday.
I think there's about 5 days left, yeah.
Of the 101 course, which is the foundation course. You get, there is a 30-day money-back period. If you're not sure about it, you want to have a look. That's usually our advice, so it won't be offended if you take advantage of that. But there's also a very good walkthrough on the sales page, and you can get to the sales page. There's a link in the show notes below. Or go to selfpublishingformula.com/101 at any time of year. And if the course is open, it'll take you to the course. If the course isn't open, you can sign up for notification when it opens. Okay. That is it. We've got a lot to do. I know you've got to get on with stuff, and so have I. And it's been brilliant to hear. The last 2 weeks, I've really enjoyed both those interviews. I say so myself, I did them, but I've really enjoyed my chats with both Maria and Ernie. I think they were super. And check them out. Check out their books as well if you want to see how good their writing is. Okay. Tread carefully in Salisbury.
Yes, I will.
Don't cross the yellow ticker line, whatever it is. Not ticker tape, the yellow tape, because we need you here next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Self-Publishing Formula podcast. Visit us at selfpublishingformula.com for more information, show notes, and links on today's topics. You can also sign up for our free video series on using Facebook ads to grow your mailing list. If you've enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review on iTunes. We'll see you next time.